Welcome back to the Abundant Culture Podcast, where business owners like you come to learn how to grow the valuation of their companies so they can sell in the future. On this show, you'll learn how to sell for top dollar and invest in profitable businesses around the country. Now, here are your hosts, Jazz and Joe.
Hi, Joe, and thank you again for coming on to the Abundant Culture Podcast. We are super excited to have you today because I was listening to Joe's conversation with you a couple weeks ago, and I was pretty excited because all the businesses that you do just sound pretty awesome. But before we start talking more about the details of those businesses, we have to ask you, what is your backstory? Give us that entrepreneurial journey.
Oh man, so where to start? I feel like I tell this story 17 different ways, but I mean, it started early. I knew even as a kid that there was just no way I was going to work a job and make somebody else wealthy. You know, I watched my mom and my dad do it, and it didn't resonate with me. And so I was always interested in business. I was always interested in the idea of somebody. How did they gain wealth? How did they, do those things? So really, when Rich Dad Poor Dad came out, that was kind of like that was the eye-opening. Here's the plan. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to build businesses to then invest. And that's how I'm going to create wealth. And so I remember reading the book. We were in a motorhome trip across or up into Canada from California. And I read that book front to back 2 or 3 times on that trip. And I just, all of a sudden, I just adopted that. So I got into it. I was running a couple businesses right out of college. I started a marketing company I had 40 employees. It was a lot of work, a lot of, in when the sun's down, out when the sun's down again. And it's like, the whole day's gone. And so I ended up I was able to sell that company. Not for a huge profit, but to get me into real estate investing. So I got into real estate investing. That went well for a hot minute. I was a hot shot mid 20-year-old. And on paper looked like I was this mega rich kid. And then the market crashed and I lost everything, literally. And so I started from ground zero, and I started with the 4-hour work week. And then, so I read that book, and that sparked something in me to do these online businesses. And so I started an e-commerce business that went really, really well. That led me into people asking, how did you market your business? How did you get customers? How did all that work? And then that led me into consulting in the marketing space. And so I've kind of always hovered around marketing. And then, in time, I did a lot of consulting, did some stuff for some big companies like, Keller Williams, their corporate company, their coaching company. They had another coaching company that they own, and I worked with them. Then I launched an agency, and I was using virtual assistants. And the 4-hour work week kind of turned me on to them. I've been using VAs every day since 2008. So my life has been built around having virtual assistants running things for me and doing things. So outsourcing is like my jam. And then somewhere around, I don't know if I got caught up in the Gary Vee stuff or something happened. And I thought, hey, to have a successful marketing agency, I have to have employees, people sitting in seats in a fancy office with glass walls and doors. So I opened one of those, and I got myself stuck in this crazy expensive lease. The business was horrible. I had, 27 people in the US sitting in office space, drinking our drinks, eating our food, basically eating me out of house and home. And I'm working 15 hours a day. I'm miserable. I'm not making money, but everybody else is getting paid and having a great time. And so I got some advice from somebody that, hey, you should go back to your old roots, use the VA side of things, niche down. So then I did that, and I relaunched my agency with just me and my VA team. We went from, my first client was $3,300 a month, and went from there to $109,000 a month in 4 months. So then we did that, and then we doubled it in another 4.5 months, and we've been off to the races since. Then I took that same model and I used it inside the VA company, and then we took the VA company and scaled that one. So, and now we have basically, our kind of core 4 companies that we own and operate. And that's what I'm up to. So that's my journey in a quick nutshell.
That is awesome. I always love hearing the serial entrepreneur story because it's one thing to start and grow one business. It's a whole nother thing to keep doing that over and over again. And I always think those people are nuts, but in a good way. So I think you're nuts in a good way.
Yeah. I think, what's interesting about this, the multiple business thing is that if you can figure out what that model is and that structure, if you look at like my agency businesses, then you look at my VA company, they're identical on the back end, right? So internal, how we operate those companies are identical. Wow. And so literally I could take a VA from one company and say, hey, this virtual assistant's going to move from this company into this company. They're going to do the same thing, but they're just going to plug them in. They can take off and they can run from right there. Wow. Because there is no difference in our architecture. And so I think that is one way that we're able to do it multiple times. We can replicate everything.
That's awesome.
I love that. Yeah. Joe and I, we always talk about that too, because, we buy companies. So we strive to create operations and be able to kind of just plug and play. Yeah. And when we tell people that, they're like, that doesn't work. That just doesn't work. But I'm happy to hear that it does work. So could you tell us a little bit more about that? I guess like just some of the details about what that back end operation side looks like.
Yeah. So I always, when I go into a business, the first thing that I want to do is figure out what divisions that the company actually needs, right? So divisions would be things like marketing, sales, fulfillment, finance, and then what was the other one that I used? So finance, and then internal, right? Those kinds of things. Oh, and HR, right? And so those kind of 6 divisions typically are what every company needs. Now, there might be 1 or 2 people that are different in a different niche, right? So one needs more graphic design help than it needs web development help, right? So in that marketing framework, those people might be different on that end. On a sales side, maybe there's 1 salesperson versus 3 or 4, and then a management person. So the people might change, but the actual division itself within the company, they're the same across everything. In the fulfillment of your services, who sits in fulfillment? What do they do? And so I break down each of those divisions, those 6 divisions, and then we say, okay, who needs to sit in what division? What do they need to be doing? And sometimes people cross over, right? Because, some of this stuff is the same. A marketing person helps fulfillment. Sales could help fulfill, sales training and so forth for clients. So a lot of it can have some crossover, but I think if you understand kind of those 6 divisions of your business, and then you can kind of almost like segment people to work in each one of those. And I think that's where that back end is identical across every company that we get involved in. And so just today, literally a couple hours ago, I made an agreement and stepped in, and I'm taking equity in an agency. And that's our first step is, okay, let's break down what are the divisions and how are they going to work. And so that's what we were on the call doing today. Okay, this is first step. Let's do this. And now we got those kind of laid out. Now it's a matter of, okay, who's going to do what? How are we going to lay it out? But yeah, it's pretty fun.
That's awesome. So it seems like you have a lot of history in just marketing in general.
Yeah.
And one thing that I've been struggling with lately, I think I'm starting to find the answer, but it's been a struggle, is as a small business owner, what your product or service is. You're great at delivering that product and service. You're probably good at selling it. You're okay at maybe hiring people. One of the things that I think a lot of business owners struggle with is that marketing aspect, especially when it comes to the digital landscape.
Right.
So what is your advice to small business owners that want to generate leads online, but have no clue on how to actually execute that?
Ooh, if you don't have a clue, then hire somebody, right? Then you need to put somebody in place. That's why agencies exist. I'm a firm believer in leveling on your strengths, going all in there and punting all your weaknesses to somebody else. Yeah. So as an example, people love this, kind of framework that I have, but in my businesses, the only aspect of my company that I run, or the 2 aspects, is I oversee finance and the vision and the direction of the company, which, that's kind of high level. I call it CEOing, right? Like I'm a CEO today and I'm going to do this, right? And then the only other area that I do is in my VA company, I still like to do sales. I still like to be the one that connects with people. So about 60% of all of our sales are people show up to our website, they see what they see, they go, okay, great, I got it. And then they register and then they become a client. About 40% of them want to book a sales call. They want to talk to somebody, figure out their needs, and then have that call. And then we either close the deal or they don't. I still enjoy doing that only because it gives me a pulse on what's going on in the market. I get to understand what agencies, because agencies are our main clients, what they're going through. I pick up a ton of cool stuff that I'm like, oh, I didn't even ever think of that, but that's pretty awesome. I'm gonna write that down and use that. And then like what just happened, today, we just finalized the deal. So now I'll have equity in yet another company. Right. And so I do that over and over. And, at some point I'll have hundreds of companies that I have equity in. And so that's still the reason that I do it. But other than doing some sales calls and reviewing sales reports and finance and like choosing the vision, the direction of the company, I don't do anything. I literally don't do fulfillment. I don't do client services. I don't manage client relationships, because the genuine truth, I'm not good at it and I don't want to. Like, if in a perfect world, you and I get on a call, we talk, we find the right fit, you buy, see ya. Like, go deal with my team, because the truth is that I'm not going to be good at holding the relationship, mending it. Like that's not me. Yeah. And I think that in business, everybody should decide and be self-aware with what you're good at. And then you should outsource, whether to an agency, whether you bring in a VA or something, you should outsource what you're not good at. Like, stay in your lane and you'll make way more money.
For sure. I totally agree. So with that being said, I believe that not all agencies are necessarily created equal. How does a business owner who, for example, if you ask me to run a Facebook ad, I will finish the ad. It might not perform all that great. So it's like, I can get it done, but I can't get it good. So as a business owner, how do you go out in the marketplace and figure out who's the right agency owner to work with in order to actually get your marketing needs met?
That's a good question. I would say get in some communities online, right? And so get into a bunch of communities, a bunch of, Facebook ads communities, marketing communities, small business owner communities. If you have a community centered around a platform that you use, whether it's a CRM or a marketing automation tool, get into the Facebook group, that community, ask around, post in there and ask, hey, I'm looking for somebody to run Facebook ads for me. I'm looking for an agency to do X, Y, or Z. What I am also a firm believer in is in specialization over generalization. I do not want a generalist running Facebook ads for me. I want a specialist. I want somebody who, they don't dabble in Facebook ads. They run Facebook ads for a living. Mm-hmm. Then if I want somebody to run something else, email marketing as an example, they better be a ninja at that. They're not okay at that. And then they kind of do this other thing. And then they do this other thing. That is what everybody goes and finds. If you find an ad agency, a marketing agency, and it's like, well, what do you do? We do everything. I'm like, see ya. Like, the chance of them having, unless they're VaynerMedia, Bain & McKenzie, one of these gigantic agencies that you have to pay them $1 million a month, the chances of them actually having specialists that do every single thing they offer is slim to none. So I'm like, cool, where's my Facebook ads agency? I want those guys. Where's my, Google AdWords agency? I want those guys. I don't want somebody who's like crossing both and they're kind of good at one. That I think that's the first step. Get into communities, ask questions, find specialists.
That is an excellent piece of information, because I think I agree with that, because there's been times where even as a business owner, I've been trying to do like everything and nothing works. So it's like, I know if I tried to do it and, I'm not a genius, but I'm definitely not dumb either. If I try to do it and it doesn't work for me, I'm pretty sure that there's other people in the world who they can't just be generalists either. They specialize. You're really good at this thing. Do that. And if you need another thing done, just really hire that out.
If you own a small business and you might be looking to sell, you could run into some major issues. Forbes estimates that 9 out of 10 businesses listed never actually sell. Why? Because there's only one way to sell. You need to do these 4 steps first. So if you want to be a part of the 10% of businesses that sell for profits, we've created a free checklist for you so you can sell without those hurdles that normally hold you back. Download the free checklist by visiting www.abundantculture.co/checklist.
Another thing that I was really curious about, and I think this is more so of a question for agencies, because you say you work a lot with other agencies, how do you as a business owner go about hiring people for creative roles? Because marketing, I think it's, I think it's a science, but it's also very, artistic.
Yeah.
And if I need, a oil change, it's like an oil change is done almost the same almost everywhere. But when you need a work of art, worked on and created, how does somebody who own a marketing agency go out and find the people who are creative enough and have the right talent for those roles?
I think it depends on what you're after, because, the artistic side of it, I think that there's an enormous amount of people out there who can do it all. They can. What breaks down is when somebody doesn't understand what they're even asking somebody to do. I come across this a lot. We have tons of agencies who are our clients. They do marketing, but yet it's actually our VA team who does the marketing on behalf of them for their clients. So my company does the marketing for that agency to give it to their clients. We do it. The way that we find it, we're really good at explaining and communicating what the need is. What are we after? What is the creative need to say? What does it need? Now, we're not a creative shop. So the creative piece of it, yes, we have great designers and all of that. And all we do is we just vet for it really well. We make them run through so many proofs of what they can do. It is obnoxious.
Wow.
We pay them $0. They prove to us over and over and over again that they can do it. But once they work with us, they know they have a job for life, because we'll never let them go. And so they want to work for my company, and we have so much business that they will always be busy. But we give them a lot of tasks. I think if you're looking for a creative shop, and the first thing that they do is they try to grab you all your money, I think that's kind of a red flag. Be cautious of that. I think give some test projects. You're going to have to put money on the line to go test in most situations. However, don't give away all of your money, to work. I just met with a lady today. We're redoing all of her branding for her business, all of it, from logo design through brand, through her whole brand identity, website, mock-up and design and all of that stuff. We're going to do the whole thing. The VAs are. And in comparison, what I just saw that she had spent tens of thousands of dollars on, and it's not any good. And she's like, I hate it. But they pitch her on this huge package. They're this fancy company, and she's totally lost. And I feel bad for her. And I'm like, oh my God, that's a fraction. Like, look, let's just spit out as many options as you want until we come to the right thing. But a creative agency that's got, they want to take the big bucks, and they want to, like, I want to serve clients. So I think, getting in line with somebody who's got your best interests at heart is number one. The creative side of it, if you can guide somebody down the right path on what you're actually looking for, it's really easy to get almost every decent designer to do what you need. So I think that, where do they go look for them? They can come to our company. They can go to a lot of other, agencies, but guide the designer to the direction you want to go. Most people really, really suck at communication, and therefore they can't communicate their own needs. So then the output that they get is terrible. And I go, well, you're going to get exactly what you put into it. So if you communicate poorly, you're going to get a poor result. So that, I don't know if that answers the question clearly, but yeah, that's what I would say.
It absolutely does. So when it comes to running these multiple businesses that you run, what would you say are some of the big mistakes that you had to kind of correct, or the challenges that you had to overcome in each one of these companies?
Well, what's funny is, like,
or number 10 or number
I know, right? Well, because it's like, what's funny is, like, if I were to look back and go, well, which mistake hurt the most? There's plenty, right? Hiring US based was something in my mind that really, really hurt me, because nothing that I had was necessary for somebody to be sitting right here. There was nothing. And so when I look at it, I'm like, man, what was I doing? Like, what was the reason that I felt like they had to be here? Taking out an office lease, I think, was one of the worst things that I ever did. It ended up the worst thing was it ended up in a lawsuit to get out of the lease. And then that wasn't fun. And so eventually we were able to finally negotiate and close the deal and get it done. But I would say getting into an office lease was horrible. You're seeing it right now in every major city in the country. There's empty office leases. If you don't need it, If you're a small business that can do everything remote, do it remote. Capitalize on profit. That would be the next thing that I would say. Don't spend your money. Like hands down, do not spend your money. You can invest it, and I don't mean invest it back into the business. That's what everybody says to do. You invest it to actually multiply, right? Investing your money back in your business so that you could buy the next, iMac, or you could buy the, get the next, software. That's not smart. Stick with what works for now. Take that money, put it somewhere where it multiplies. I don't know what people are earning, but if you're earning enough, like go buy a piece of real estate. Do stuff where you can actually create a return on your money forever, not just in the business. Marketing would be one investment I would say turn it into if you know how to do marketing. If you have a good marketing agency you're working with, definitely do that, right? Marketing can give you like a cryptocurrency type ROI. We just had, I just calculated my first investment in restarting my agency, where we went from 3,300 to 109,000 in 4 months. In that 4-month window, there was a 1,600% return on my money. Like, you name an investment on this planet where you can, in a 4-month window, you can make a 1,600% return on the dollar that you put in. That's insane. And we were able to do it. And so I would say, don't spend your money on dumb shit. Don't buy watches. Don't buy, and it's funny because a lot of, finally there's some people talking about it, but if you feel the need to take a picture in front of a fancy car that ain't yours, you got serious problems, right? You shouldn't be running a business. If you feel the need that before you own a piece of real estate, you bought a fancy car, you're broken, right? You're gonna eventually you're gonna go bankrupt, right? Like, be smart with your money. Like, that's what I would say.
Yeah, make smart decisions.
Yeah.
I think that's a very piece of just practical advice. And I could already tell, like, you're this super practical person. And I think a lot of times in entrepreneurship, especially for, I guess, the newer generation of entrepreneurs, it's really missing.
Social media, it's a social media generation, right?
Yeah.
You show what ain't yours. Everybody's got to, flex in front, and whatever that, term you want to call it. It's true. Like, the amount of, people out there who are entrepreneurs, and they're willing to go out there and get that right photo for their Instagram feed, when, you turn around and they don't have, anything in the bank. It's just like, man, like, if you just sat down and just did it right, like, we have a really good analogy that we use, and we use it all the time. So I don't know if you guys like football at all, but I'm a huge football fan.
A little bit.
Okay. So in football, a lineman will never win the MVP, ever.
Right.
But the MVP will never win without the lineman.
I actually heard that somewhere.
Blocking and tackling is how you win.
Yeah.
So stop being fancy, do the very basic things, the fundamentals that businesses need, and you'll make a crap ton of money and be super happy.
Absolutely.
Super easy.
Yeah. So I found it interesting that you said don't invest back in the business, but invest into other things. So I'm curious what you're investing in right now.
Real estate, crypto.
Real estate and crypto.
Yeah.
So,
right now. But we're playing a fun game though, because the way that we're, so here's a scary thing. So actually, I just did a lot of research on this over the past like 6 months. So everybody should go do this. If you're buying crypto and you're like a young, kind of crypto money maker, and you get one of those debit cards that lets you use your Litecoin or something to go spend some money, and people, any transaction, every single cryptocurrency transaction that exists is taxable. Every single one. So you want to go buy your $1,000 iPhone, you want to use your debit card for your cryptocurrency, and that's what you want to use. You just paid 1,000 plus tax on top of that. Like income tax, because every single thing that you do with a piece of crypto, if it's a transaction, it's actually converting it to dollars, then spending it, because there is no such thing as a cryptocurrency transaction to buy a good of service of anything. Wow. You literally have to convert it. It's a taxable event. So everybody out there that's like, all fancy and shit, they are going to get obliterated with taxes. So that's the first thing. So be smart about how you do it. If you're buying cryptocurrency, you're never selling it, ever. It is legacy wealth, and you leave it and you keep it for your children. Real estate can spit out income, and you can take that income tax free, and there's all kinds of ways to do that. So that's the reason and the why.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
So before we actually start wrapping up here, because I want to make sure that our audience gets a really good idea of each company that you're running.
Yeah.
Just in case somebody's listening to this, because I heard something you said on the phone and you didn't mention it yet, but it was like, it has something to do with camping or park
Oh
trip.
yeah. So we're in the middle of launching that. So we're in the middle. This is a fun little business that we kind of tested. It was kind of an accident, but I did it because I was annoyed, so my wife, my kids and I, we love camping. So we, during the whole COVID thing, we're all locked down and it's driving us crazy. Like our kids are literally driving us crazy. And we're like, we just need to get out and go somewhere. So we hooked up our travel trailer to the truck, hit the road, and we decided just to go camping. And so we're getting online on our phones and while we're driving and we're trying to figure out like, where are we going to stay? Like, let's pick a campground. Let's call, and we get on these websites and they're just terrible. And I'm like, I can't figure out if they're any good for the kids. Is it a good situation for the dogs? Like, is it right on? Like, nothing is easy to figure out. And I realized like, oh my gosh, these campgrounds are horrible at marketing. Horrible. And all of a sudden it clicked. And I'm like, that's it. And so I use voice memos on my iPhone like every 4 minutes. And so I make a voice memo and I'm like, build a business around, campground marketing. And so I make this, that night, I just get my iPad and I draw up like a quick little diagram and I say, hey, this is what we're going to do. I need a landing page that looks like this, has to have a form on it, and then we're going to test and see if anybody's interested. Well, the next thing you know, we've got like 30 clients. We're doing like 40 grand a month in income. And I don't even have a business. Like there's nothing there. It's just like a landing page and like, hey, we're going to do some services for you. And we got a business that's bigger than most people's income that they'll ever make. And I'm like, okay, we need to actually decide if this is what we're going to do and turn it into a real business. And so campgrounddigital.com is going to be the actual company. We have kind of a basic site up right now. I got to put some content on it. But I did just last week make the formal decision that, all right, yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to run hard with it. I'm going to pass it off to my team and let them just go build the business. So that's the campground business. It was an accident, but it's pretty cool.
I love it. I mean, you saw a need in the marketplace and you filled it. So that's what business is all about.
Yep. Capitalism.
Find any pain point you can and solve it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we covered so much on this episode already. So for the listener, if they walked away with just one takeaway, what would it be?
Hey, try everything. Just try it. Like if you're nervous about starting a business, don't be. You can start a business today for almost nothing.
Yeah.
So I literally sketched. You could have done it on a piece of paper. I happen to have an iPad Pro, right? So, but my business model when I come up with an idea is I literally draw on a whiteboard and I can't draw at all. So this is like ghetto sketch, stick figures, like a box that says put photo here. And I literally draw up what I want, or I draw the flow of what I think is supposed to happen. And then I pass it off to my team and say, hey, so then I take that and I literally will take my phone, I'll take a picture of it and I'll say, okay. And then basically I put that on and I do a video, like a screen share walkthrough. And I just talk about what I'm trying to explain. I tell them, this is what I'm thinking. This is how I see it going. This is what I want to do. And then they build it. And if you had a VA doing that and it cost you $1,000, right, to do that for you, $1,000 to figure out if your business idea is going to work is nothing.
Right.
And when that 1,000 then all of a sudden nets you 10 grand, okay, well that's a damn good deal. I'll do that investment again. Right. So I would say go try things. Like don't be afraid. If you're already in a business and you want to grow it and don't be afraid to pull the trigger. One thing, a great piece of advice a mentor told me is that money is cyclical. So what's interesting is even somebody who has a job, right? They take their money, they pay their bills, they go spend whatever's left. Magically, 2 weeks later, they get paid again. It just shows up. If you're in business and you're servicing clients, you get paid by a client, you do some work, you pay your bills, spend whatever. Magically, the next month, that client pays again. And it keeps going. So every time people get nervous about like, can I try something? It's usually a financial nerve. They're unsure, like, can I afford it? How do I afford it? Like, how do I do it? The truth is, like, the money's gonna be back there in your bank account in 30 days.
Yeah.
Just try it.
Yeah.
Just try it, because the upside will usually outweigh the downside, sometimes 100 to 1. And in our case, 1,600 to 1, right? Yeah. So like, don't be afraid. And then the last piece of advice I would say is like use VAs. Cost leverage, right? Use VAs. It's way less expensive. You know, my VAs have more education than I do. We have VAs who have master's degrees. One of our guys has a double master's degree. I'm like, I dropped out, dude. Like, I didn't even make it. So I'm like, you're smarter than me, man. Like, just, yeah. So, I mean, you can have really, really good people that can really serve your business. So I think eliminating all the fear is one of the best pieces of advice that you can give.
For sure. Quick question. Where should someone go in order to hire a VA?
level9virtual.com. So the word level, the number 9virtual.com.
Awesome.
That's it.
So we feel the need to ask this question to everybody that comes on because we always get very interesting and unique answers. And the question is, since you're on the Abundant Culture podcast, in your personal life, in your business, or even in your spiritual life, how do you like to spread abundance?
Sharing what I know. I've figured out a few things. I've kind of hacked the system. I'm very much a contrarian in a lot of ways, right? I don't follow suit.
Yeah.
So I always want to try different things. And what I figured out how to do in building businesses that run without me, that's kind of like the entrepreneurial dream, right? And people always talk about, well, I want this business that's hands off. Well, most people can't ever do it. They never do it. And so what they end up with is I started a business, but I got a new job. And my whole thing is I build my businesses from the place of where I want to be. I don't want to work them. My children, these two little girls up here, are everything. So I want to be with them. Yeah. You know, when I come in the house and they're home and it's like, it's family time, phone down, I don't have to worry about anything. My team has it. And so the way that I can impact the people the most is literally by helping and teaching what I've figured out that for some reason, I don't know if it was a gift or if it was something I stumbled onto or I've spent enough money and failed enough times. I've just figured some things out that I think are valuable to a lot of people and I want to pass it along and share it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love it.
I can see that.
So for the person listening, they love everything you said. Where can they find you or your team?
Easily, level9virtual.com is probably the easiest place to go. You can do joerare.com also is an easy place to get access to me and kind of what I'm up to. And if there's a new business, like we'll float it on the site somewhere and I'm sure there's going to be plenty more to come.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Joe,
Yeah,
so much for coming on. You shared a wealth of knowledge, and I'm sure the listener and we did too. We got a lot of value from this. So thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
If you don't diversify your investment portfolio, you could end up losing it all. But most business owners don't know how to diversify to mitigate those risks. That's why we created this resource for you. This passive investing guide is a must-have if you're planning to invest in businesses. Don't hesitate. If you have more than 25 grand liquid, then you can't afford not to take advantage of this resource. Download the 4 reasons why in 2021 you need small businesses in your portfolio now by going to www.abundantculture.co/guide.
Thank you for listening to the Abundant Culture podcast with Jazz and Joe. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe, then leave an honest rating and review. And remember, we're ready to buy your business. So if you're ready to sell or passively invest in other small businesses, go to abundantculture.co for more information. We publish episodes every Friday, so we'll see you next week.